If there's one thing I've learned after watching men crumble in the name of love, it's this explanation is the death of attraction. You think you're clarifying, you think you're easing her mind, showing her the real you, making her feel safe, but in her mind, every word you say bleeds away a little more mystery. Every attempt to be understood becomes a quiet funeral for the very thing that made her crave you in the first place. Mystery. The unknown. The unpredictable. She doesn't want clarity. She wants the chase. And every time you explain, you remove the thrill she came for. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to stay silent when most men crumble, and how to let her obsession build without ever needing to justify your existence. You've been conditioned since childhood to explain yourself. To parents, to teachers, to bosses, then to women. Why were you late? Where were you last night? What did you mean by that message? And like a trained dog, you respond. Polite? Eager? Let me explain. You think it's kindness? You think it's respect? But in reality, it's submission. Women feel it in your tone. It's not the words, it's the energy behind them. You're seeking her approval. You're desperate to be liked. And in that moment, she knows she has you. And that's when she starts pulling away. She doesn't want the man who explains. She wants the man who doesn't need to, who says little, who holds something back, who makes her wonder, the one she can't quite read. The man whose silence echoes louder than her questions. You know what that silence says? It says you don't own me. You don't get to decode me. I am what I am. Take it or leave it. That silence drives her crazy. That's the man she dreams about at night. That's the man she stalks on social media after pretending she doesn't care. That's the man she cries over when he walks away. I still remember sitting in a dim bar in Madrid. A woman asked me why I hadn't called her back. I just looked at her, smiled, sipped my drink, didn't say a word, and she broke right there. She went from cold and poised to flustered and apologetic. I just wanted to know if you were okay. She stammered. That's the power of not explaining. You shift the dynamic. You become the chooser. You stop reacting and start commanding the energy in the room. The urge to explain is a weakness. It comes from fear. Fear of being misunderstood. Fear of being abandoned. Fear that if she doesn't know everything, she'll leave. But here's the brutal truth. The more you reveal, the faster she will leave. Not because of what you say, but because there's nothing left for her to discover. Mystery isn't an act. It's a mindset. You don't withhold to manipulate, you withhold because you don't need her understanding. You are complete with or without her comprehension. But most men crumble under silence. They feel the tension rise and they start filling the air with reasons, excuses, justifications. I didn't mean it like that. I just thought you'd be happier if... And with every word, they dig their grave. You want to kill her desire for you? Over-explain. You want to make her feel safe. But what you end up doing is becoming safe, and safe is boring. And boring is the one sin women never forgive. Women don't fall for the man who explains. They fall for the man who doesn't flinch. You say what you say and you leave it there. You do what you do and you offer no commentary. You are an event, not a negotiator. And when she asks, "Why did you do that?" you just look at her. Not with aggression, not with defiance, but with absolute calm. The kind of calm that makes her wonder what storm you've already survived that makes this moment feel like nothing. That's what pulls her in. Not the speech, the stillness. You think being open builds trust. But with women, it often builds contempt. You hand her the full map to your emotional terrain, and she immediately loses interest. It's not because she's cruel, it's because it's done. The story is over. The mystery is solved. And solved puzzles go back in the drawer. So how do you train yourself out of the addiction to explanation? Start here every time you feel the urge to explain yourself. Don't bite it. Hold it. Let the silence stretch. Watch her squirm. Watch her try to fill it. Let her work. That's the shift. You stop auditioning. You stop answering. You become the question. and she becomes the one trying to earn your clarity. That's the game she actually wants. The one where she's not quite sure where she stands. The one where she has to lean in, ask, guess, chase. The one where she says to her friends, I don't know what it is about him. He's just different. What she means is, I can't control him. And that makes her obsess. Every time you drop an explanation, you dilute your power. Every time you hold your frame and let her wonder, you multiply it. Think about that the next time she asks you where this is going. Think about that the next time you feel like giving her the real you. Because the real you isn't what you say, it's what you withhold. It's the part of you she doesn't get to touch. That's where your power lives. She tests you, not to hear your answer, but to feel your reaction. Every question she throws is a probe, a sonar ping in the ocean of your mind, not to find truth, but to find weakness. And when you rush to explain, to clarify, to smooth things over, she hears only one thing: you fear losing her. And the moment she senses that fear, the game is over. You've fallen out of the frame. You've traded polarity for pleading. She no longer looks up at you, she looks down. And no amount of honesty will ever reverse that gravitational collapse. You've seen it before. The guy who spills everything. His feelings, his past, his insecurities. He thinks he's building intimacy. She nods, smiles, says thank you, then ghosts him. Why? Because he killed the myth. He offered himself like a book with the ending circled in red. No chase, no thrill, no unknowns. That's not intimacy. That's self-sabotage dressed in vulnerability. You weren't real. You were available. And women don't dream of what's already on the shelf. You want to be remembered. Then say less, much less. Speak in a way that plants a question, not a conclusion. Let her leave wondering. Let her sit in the passenger seat of that car ride home, staring out the window, replaying every glance you gave, every pause you let stretch, every answer you didn't give. Let her be the one unraveling the mystery instead of the one wrapping it up in a bow. You want to dominate a room. Control your pace. Hold your eyes on someone longer than they expect. Answer a question with a tilt of your head and a smile instead of a speech. The more you trust your silence, the more the world bends to accommodate it. Why? Because silence implies certainty. Explanation, on the other hand, reeks of uncertainty. It's the man who doesn't trust his impact that scrambles to justify it. The man who knows his power, he lets his presence speak. This isn't about being a stone wall. It's about internal gravity. The kind of man who doesn't overshare because he doesn't need to. He knows not everything is hers to know. Not because he's hiding something, but because he owns his space. And only he decides who enters it. The deeper truth is this: women don't fall in love with you. They fall in love with the gap between what they know and what they feel. The contradiction, the edge, the unresolved tension. You think love is built through comfort? It's not. It's built through emotional electricity. And electricity requires resistance, friction, polarity. That means holding back. That means letting her yearn for the part of you just out of reach. And when she finally feels like she has you figured out, pull back slightly, subtly. Leave one question hanging in the air. It can be a glance, a quiet departure, a decision you don't explain. Something that says, you're not done with me. There's more, but only if I choose to show it. That's when she doubles down. That's when the desire escalates. That's when you become unforgettable. Women fantasize about men who don't explain. Watch the stories they read, the shows they love, the movies they weep over. It's always the mysterious man. The man with a scar he never talks about. The one who disappears for 3 days and doesn't say why. The one who says, I'll call you, and then shows up 3 weeks later without an apology. Why? Because mystery invites imagination. And imagination is more powerful than any truth you could say out loud. Here's what you need to understand: your clarity is her closure. When you explain, she categorizes you, labels you, files you away. You become known, and the known never keeps her up at night. But the unknown, the man she thinks she understands but isn't sure, that's the one that haunts her. You're not a brand. You're not a biography. You're not here to let her in just because she knocked. You are the locked door at the top of the stairs, the one she's not sure she's allowed to open, the one that keeps her curious, the one that keeps her coming back. You say, "But I want her to know the real me." Fine. Then be the real you, but stop explaining him. Let her learn through action, through silence, through contrast. Let her experience you, not decode you. Women are emotional creatures. They don't fall for logic. They fall for sensation. And silence is a sensation. Mystery is a sensation. The absence of an answer is a presence of possibility. You're not being cold. You're being powerful. You're not being rude. You're being rare. Because almost every other man she meets is tripping over himself to be understood. You're the man who doesn't need to be. And that makes you unforgettable. There's a reason women lose interest right after you open up. Not because you were honest, but because you collapsed. You stopped being the rock she leaned on and became the puddle she had to clean up. You think your explanations show emotional intelligence. What they really show is fragility. You want her to see you, feel you, validate you. But a woman doesn't want a man who needs to be seen. She wants a man who sees himself, with or without her reflection. That's the difference between an alpha and the average. The alpha man moves like a ghost in plain sight. Present, intense, but untouchable. He can be in the same room and feel a mile away, not because he's distant, but because his energy isn't available on demand. He doesn't explain because he doesn't need approval. His life is an invitation, not a pitch. You either walk into his world and meet him where he stands, or you watch him disappear. You ever wonder why some women go insane for guys who barely say a word? Why they'll cry over men who never text back, but yawn at the guy who sends essays? It's because attention without tension is dead weight. You gave her everything. She didn't have to earn it. No mystery, no challenge, no emotional terrain to explore. So she leaves not because you lacked something, but because she had too much of you. That's the secret mystery is earned, not gifted. You don't hand it over like a business card. You let her peel it back, layer by layer. One night she gets a smile. Another night she gets a story. Weeks later, maybe she learns your middle name. You are a fortress, not a motel. She doesn't walk in with a knock. She earns every step. And if she leaves before the door opens, so be it. Let her wonder what she missed. You've been taught that love means transparency. That to connect, you must open the floodgates. But women don't fall for open gates. They fall for locked doors and the thrill of unlocking them. Don't rob her of that. Don't ruin the dance. Hold your ground. Let her come to you. And when she asks, "Why don't you tell me more?" Smile. Let the silence speak. Let her feel the ache of not knowing. Because in that ache, her desire lives. There's a reason monks are silent. A reason kings sit still while others speak. Because the one who doesn't explain holds the power. Words are tools, but silence is a weapon. When you speak less, what you say hits harder. When you explain less, what you are becomes louder. She will try to draw it out. She will tempt you, beg for understanding. But the real man, the rooted man, knows she doesn't actually want the explanation. She wants the experience. So let her experience you. Let your absence burn into her memory more than your words ever could. Let her miss the pieces she can't quite name. Let her replay the moment you looked at her and said nothing. Because that silence will echo long after 1,000 texts fade. You don't chase understanding. You command presence. And in doing so, you trigger something ancient in her. Something primal. A longing. A question that never finds its answer. A hunger that only deepens. That's when she starts becoming more feminine, more curious, more invested. That's when the chase reverses. She wants to feel small in your mystery. Not small because you overpower her, but small because you stand in something deeper than validation. You stand in yourself. That's the core. That's what makes her trust you. Not what you say, not what you share, but what you don't need from her. No reassurance, no permission, no emotional nursing. Just your calm, still unreadable self. That's the paradox. The less you explain, the more she feels. The less you offer, the more she gives. The less you show, the more she imagines. And a woman's imagination is the most powerful drug you'll ever be inside. So stop telling her who you are. Be who you are, and let her fall into that gravity. And when she finally says it, when she finally breaks and says, "I just don't know what you're thinking," you don't clarify. You don't comfort. You let her sit in it. Because that uncertainty is your throne. That is where you reign. Not in her comfort, but in her confusion. Not because you're cruel, but because you understand what she's chasing. She's not chasing facts. She's chasing feeling. And the deepest feelings are born from the unanswered. You've been taught to believe that communication is everything. But in a man-woman dynamic, communication is not clarity, it's contrast. Polarity, masculine silence met by feminine curiosity. The frame where she leans in and you lean back. That's what builds seduction. That's what creates gravity. Not, "I just wanted to make sure you understood." But I said what I said. No softness, no backpedal, just presence. Understand this when you explain yourself. You are negotiating your worth. You are putting your truth on trial. And the second you do that, you tell her, "I believe you get to decide if I'm worthy." No. You never hand that power over. You never shrink to be understood. A man with purpose doesn't stop to justify. He walks, and the world adjusts. And women feel that in the core of their being, they test it over and over, not because they want you to fail, but because they want to feel that you won't. That no matter what question they throw, what emotional bait they dangle, you remain rooted. That's when trust is born. That's when respect is triggered. That's when desire stops being casual and becomes obsession. You can't fake this. You can't pretend to be mysterious while secretly dying to be seen. That mask falls apart fast. Real mystery comes from real detachment. From a man who doesn't need her attention. Who moves from mission, not validation. Who knows that the more she knows about him, the less she feels. So he gives her just enough, then vanishes. Like fog after a storm. Like a dream she almost remembers. And it's not about playing games. Games are for boys who want attention. This is about truth. This is about becoming a man so self-contained, so internally full, that explanation becomes irrelevant, that your actions speak in sentences, that your stillness carries meaning, that your gaze holds more weight than her entire diary. She will say, "You're hard to read." She will say, "You never really open up," and you will feel the pressure to change that. Don't. That discomfort she feels. That's attraction. That's tension. That's the living proof that your presence is bigger than her frame can contain. And the moment you collapse into comfort, it all dies. Let her guess. Let her wonder. Let her feel the silence wrap around her like a warm, disorienting fog. She'll walk away sometimes. She'll test the waters with another man. And you say nothing. You don't explain. You don't plead. You disappear. And when she realizes what she had, when the noise of the world fails to replace your gravity, she will come back. Not for your words, but for your weight. There's a reason the men who speak little are remembered most. The man who smiles and walks away while others talk. The man who doesn't justify why he's leaving. He just leaves. She watches the door close, and no closure comes. That door becomes the movie in her mind for years. That's the man she never forgets. You want to be unforgettable, then be the man who never explains. Be the mystery she never solves. Be the stillness that haunts her loudest moments. And never apologize for it. Never dilute it. Never explain it away. You don't get her back by speaking. You don't win her heart by reasoning. You don't earn respect by oversharing. You get her back by silence. You keep her by mystery, and you become legend by walking away without a single word.